Okay, so welcome to the Science Communication and Future Media webinar for people to find out about our fantastic course here at the University of Salford. My name is Erinma, I'm a lecturer on the course, and I'm going to introduce you to a few people who are teaching on the course, and also Ben McGee, who's our postgraduate recruitment officer. So welcome. Great to have this conversation with you. It's going to last roughly an hour. We'll see. The idea is that we'll be answering some of the questions that people might have about the course and giving you information about how the course works. But just to introduce you, we have Professor Andy Miah, who's our chair.
Hello, everyone.
Of Science Communication Future Media at the University of Salford. We have Dr. Chloe James, a medical biologist at the University of Salford, and our new program lead on the course, which she begins this year for this trimester. So welcome, Chloe.
Thank you.
So yeah, great. So without further ado, we also have, let me find him, Paul Wilshaw, who is one of our current students.
Hey!
Star Wars fan.
Yes, a Lego fan.
Yeah. We were going to have a chat with Paul about the course and how it works with his the work that he's doing at the moment and how the course has contributed to that, and hear a bit about that student experience. But I thought I would start briefly by going to Andy to tell us a little bit about the philosophy behind the course and the kind of people that we're trying to attract, support and promote. So Andy, over to you.
Thanks very much, Erinma. So I get back a bit further and just to think about what Salford's done over the last decade, which began with partnering with Manchester Science Festival. I think it's 10 years ago this year that we did this. And that began a bit of a conversation around how universities and researchers in particular engage with the public. And over this decade, various people in the School of Environment and Life Sciences in particular have thought about how to create a program of work that engages the public, but also provides skills for students to learn how to do that kind of work effectively. So I joined the university around 4 years ago, and we started to begin to develop this master's degree in science communication and future media, a degree that we wanted to be cutting edge, creative, bringing art and science together, in part because many of the people within the school have this kind of quite varied sensibility towards the creative practice, both within their science, but also working with artists and designers. There's also a very clear vision to develop something that was internationally focused, that responded to the international research that happens within the university, but also that's flexible for students. I mean, I remember doing a master's degree where there was so much contact time week to week, so much reading, and it was very difficult to manage that alongside my full-time job. So we thought we'd design a master's degree that was online, part-time, and which responded to those professional demands that people have in their working lives. So the philosophy has been developed with those things in mind to make sure it's something that people can do alongside their job, and often with the assessments we've created for the modules, they can tie them in with some of their professional workload as well. So hopefully it makes it something that you can integrate within your professional life, if that's a way of making it more efficient for you. We're also very keen to make sure that the degree uses the latest platforms. So the emphasis on future media was to really respond to the trends within communication at the moment. Certainly social media, but things like virtual reality, using technologies in the most creative ways and pushing the boundaries of what's possible. And various modules cover such things as kind of creative storytelling. Students have the opportunity to devise their own sort of assessment protocol around the agenda for the particular module. And that's one of the freedoms that we kind of really want to build into the degree, so that everyone has this chance to sort of respond to the assessment in their own particular way. A big part of it also was to build something that responds to the university's ambitions, particularly within Media City. So we have a great team over at Media City at the University of Salford, which is a really unique hub in the United Kingdom. where you have a whole range of media technology companies alongside our university campus, which is packed full of technology that we can use to produce new work. So the community around the degree was also crucial, bringing together artists, scientists, and technicians to make things happen. What's also unique about the degree within the university, certainly, is that it's not just underpinned by the School of Environmental Science and Life Sciences, it also has support from the School of Arts and Media and the School of Computer Science and Engineering. And this sort of unique partnership means that we can help students be really ambitious with what they'd like to do and what they'd like to develop. We're also very keen to make sure that the students that come to the university remain part of our community. We have a lot of activities happening across the year, and certainly we hope that when students graduate, we can still rely on those people to collaborate with us, but also work with us on things that we're trying to do already. And that freelance community is a central part of what we're building here at Salford University. In terms of the delivery itself, we try to make sure that the delivery is flexible for students. So we have a weekly meetup, which is on a Thursday night from September, October onwards, where we get together, talk about the content for the week, and then the rest of the time you have freedom to explore the content in your own time alongside your professional roles, perhaps. The degree itself, I'll just give you a quick background to what that looks like, because we have 8 modules. And depending on which year you join one module or another. So in October this year, we have our sort of second block of content that's being delivered. And you'll have, one of the things we decided to do was to have modules sequentially. So in the first 6 weeks, you'll cover one module, and in the second 6 weeks, you'll cover a second module. And that was partly to make sure that we gave people the freedom to really dive deeply into a subject, but also to make sure that they could find some kind of common ground between them. So if you join this year in October, you'll start off with these 2 modules, creative context and science communication and live performance. And then the second year that you're with us, you'll do this first block. And it was partly also to recognize that these skills are kind of linear. These are different packages of science communication skills that we're developing, and each one has advanced components within them. All that together hopefully should build a profile that allows you, by the end of the degree, to really be at the cutting edge of science communication, but also to ensure that you have some insight into where communication is taking us. So experimenting with new technologies is a big part of that process as well. So I think with that, I'll hand back to Erinma. But actually, before I do that, maybe I'll just mention that one of the big collaborations, as I spoke at the beginning, is with Manchester Science Festival. Every year in October, we have a big weekend where we deliver and devise all sorts of crazy ideas and projects to deliver within this program. So one of the things we did last year was called the Library of Fake News, and we got our library department to work with us creatively on that. We also had the aquarium, which was a dry indoor aquarium where people could walk into and feel like they were underwater. And that project's going now into a virtual reality development as well. So we're very keen that the projects that students work on can have some kind of legacy that's public as well. We're very keen on making sure that if you come to us without being terribly kind of confident in the public domain, that by the end of it, you'll be really as prolific as Paul Wilshaw in the public domain. So maybe just Chloe, if you could say a few words about what we do in the festival for that big weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a card-carrying microbiologist. So my first passion is microbiology and always will be. But I'm also getting more and more involved in science communication. So for the Manchester Science Festival, I've been involved in the last 3 years, and we've grown our activities more and more every year, and they're always really popular. And so we use some very basic concepts in microbiology to help people interact and understand more about their the bacteria that live in their bodies and on their bodies. And so in the past, we've focused a lot on the bacteria on people's skin. And we think about bacteria as being a living paint that people can paint pictures with on agar plates. And we grow that art and show it to the visitors later on. So it's a really great way to engage with them. And during the activities, we have lots of conversation about microbiology and what the microbiota is. I think it's really funny that I'll have conversations with taxi drivers, and if I say, and they say, oh, what do you do? And I'll say microbiology, and they go, oh, they stand back and say, that's really hard, you must be really clever. It's like, totally impossible to sort of grasp any of those concepts. But then if I say, oh, well, I'm interested in antibiotics and how they help make us better and how bacteria are developing resistance, they're like, oh, yeah, I know loads about that. And they start telling me stories and they start telling me what they understand and their ideas about it. And so there's this really weird barrier between the subject of science and then actually the topics we explore within them. And so things like the Manchester Science Festival, I think, are really good at kind of dissolving that sort of people's fear of science. And so I've just been appointed as the chair of the science communication for the Microbiology Society. So I'm going to be involved a lot more. Yeah, great. So I'm going to be involved a lot more sort of on a national level of communicating microbiology. So I think I'm really excited that I'm now at the same time taking on program lead of this program, because that marries up very much with what I'm doing. So what we did at the Science Festival the last few years, last year the students from the MSc course interviewed me about my research and how that's translated into the activities at the Manchester Science Festival. And so some people picked that up as topics for their assessments. And so this is really nice that we sort of interweave all of the activities of this master's degree with the research that's actively going on at Salford. And I think that's quite unique. I think that's quite an exciting thing about the course.
Fantastic. Thank you, Chloe. Can everyone hear me okay? Give me a thumbs up if you can. Yes. So yes, you've heard from quite a few people now. So Andy, who's our chair in science communication, and he goes to the Olympics every 2 to 4 years. So some of your lectures and content might come from an Olympic sporting arena. And myself, I'm a filmmaker and I'm a neuroscientist by background, and I have married those two things together on the course and lead on a module called Science and Storytelling. I also do work in citizen science, which is where the public get involved in actually doing science and sharing that more widely. And so there's a module on citizen science and public involvement. I'll tell you a bit more about the modules in a bit, but I think now is the time really for us to go to Paul Wilshaw, who's had the experience as a student on the course, for him to tell us a little bit about his experience of being on a course. So I'm heading to you, Paul, now.
Cool. Hello. Hello.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Right. So just to introduce myself, so Paul Wilshaw, I work for Barclays UK Ventures, which is a new part of Barclays to disrupt banking. Sorry, my Alexa's going off. And as part of that, I work with a part of Eagle Labs. So my days are very hectic. I have lots of calls with, losing my voice, because I've had loads this morning. I have lots of calls with my developers in India and all around the country. We've got 15 labs now. So working with all those and working with the engineers. So it's really cool. So what this course has allowed me is the flexibility of my work, which is a crazy schedule. Sometimes I'm in London, sometimes I'm in Jersey, sometimes I'm in Cambridge. But I get to meet a wide range of people, artists, technologists, scientists, and UX or design thinking people, crazy amount of people. And this course has really helped to wrap it all in and bind that knowledge together. So much so that I now do talks on artificial intelligence and citizen science to get people involved in citizen science at a very early stage in their research for their artificial intelligence platforms. So that's really cool. Yeah, it's good.
So that tells us a little bit about kind of why you took the course, but so that flexibility is something that kind of worked for you then?
Yes, definitely. And all the online videos, I mean, I work around the corner from the university, which was one of my key facts, but actually most of it is remote like this. We do, you've seen my Lego far too many times, and I can do it and I can interact. And the way the course is delivered is brilliant. So it's either podcasts or video or kind of like some reading or online stuff, and I can do that whenever I want. So I could be on the way to work, I could be just doing some other work, and then listen to the podcast and kind of recap on it and research it. So I've even rode my bike to work listening to one of Andy's podcasts, which is cool, and it's a great way to learn. So it's brilliant.
So your background is from the arts and humanities side. So you're a UX designer, would you say? Your first degree was in from an arts perspective?
Yes, so I've had a few careers, from architecture to music to filmmaking, and then I ended up building websites and loads of things like that. So and then I get into technology. I ended up working on Barclays Pingit, which was a massive project. Got into mobile tech in there, and then just got really interested in how technology can advance and help society. So got really interested in that, really passionate about delivering those messages about education and women in tech and young people joining engineer programs. So and they deliver that quite a lot. We had the Girl Guides in the other day, and we made little cup robots with them. So so it's cool, and using the knowledge of the course really helps to drive that activity forward. And I feel like I'm more strategic as a result of it. So it's cool.
And then what about some of the other students? So we have in your year, there's
Yes.
some scientists, and there's another creative technologist. How have you found it working with scientists?
Really interesting. I kind of like, and I think just to pick up on what Chloe was saying, you know, when you think about science, you think scary, but it's not actually. And you know a lot about this stuff from news, from kind of like your own personal interactions, and you know it, but it's just giving that confidence to talk about it. And even, you know, kind of like one of our other students is a full-blown scientist, which always amazes me. And it's just amazing to kind of like think, well, yeah, well, I can help out on that. My expertise can help in the science, and likewise, the science can help my experiences as well. Fantastic.
And so you've talked a little bit about how the course works with your workload.
Yes.
I wonder is there an area or a topic? Did you come into this with a specific goal in mind?
Yes, in a way, just to experience more and to stretch my abilities, really. So I do a lot of UX and design thinking things. I've even done lectures and things on those. And I thought I could do a master's in that, but I'm not sure what I'd gain. And this has kind of really pushed the boundaries of my thinking and expertise, and it's given a whole new dimension. And it's great that it comes back around, or you can use it in whatever field you're studying, whatever field you're kind of working in. And I kind of find everything's relevant. And even we had, so we've got 15 engineers at Eagle Labs, and we had a session with them, an offsite on Monday. And I was telling them all about social media and communicating on social media. And a lot of that knowledge has come from this course. And it's kind of like, I've learned kind of like our human attention spans are shorter than goldfish, which is good. Which is good.
Fantastic. So you're bringing some of the science that you've learned on the course into your everyday workplace and
Totally.
sharing that with other people.
Yes.
That's really exciting. That's what we were hoping, that it's applying the learning directly in the workplace. Of course, people don't have to be working necessarily. They could just be learning for the sake of learning and thinking about where they might want to go in the future, and we can help and support with that. But thank you, Paul. That was really insightful to hear kind of your perspective on the course. I hope you might hang around in case we have a few more questions for you. So the next thing I kind of wanted to focus on, thank you, Paul, was to say in a little bit more detail about the modules themselves. And Andy had said that we have, just going to put myself in the spotlight. There we go, back in the hot seat. Andy had shared with us some of the highlights or the ethos of the course. But depending on where you're coming from, there's an opportunity for people to kind of contribute on every module. And one of the things that we've done in thinking about the assessments is to ensure that you're kind of building a portfolio from the outset. And part of that is how you create an online presence for yourself. So if we were to look at a couple of the modules, and you could have a look to see what were those particular assignments for those modules. One of the things that we've tried to do is to make sure that we kind of enable students to work together and collaborate and use the tools of the web to achieve what's needed to achieve, and to motivate yourselves to work together, to have a go and to try things out. So one of those particular modules that's kind of worth having a chat about is the science and storytelling module. Hopefully you can see that now. Let me just scroll down. There we go. So let's have a quick look at science and storytelling by way of example. So in the first year, and this is one of my modules, and the idea is that we look at and focus on the art and the science of storytelling. So myself, I'm a filmmaker by background and a neuroscientist by background, and we're looking across a range of different cultural forms and formats to explore why digital storytelling is really important for communicating science. So I've combined my knowledge in neuroscience and my knowledge in storytelling in practice for us to explore that. And we look at science and storytelling from Hollywood to the digital age, in interactive story worlds. That's part of my expertise. I've been involved in designing games, the concept for games, not the games themselves, and the engagement around those games, and using storytelling to motivate people to connect it to their everyday lives, can encourage people to get involved in that. But we also looked at science fiction prototyping and Afrofuturism, which is the way that we might think about race and how people of African heritage might imagine themselves in the future by using science fiction to explore that, and technology as part of that. And then Andy does a session on narrative ethics as a science communication method, and you can kind of see the recommended reading. But what we do is the formative challenge for that task, and by formative I mean it's not assessed, but it gets everyone collaborating together and using different kinds of expertise, was to come up with how you would have create an online storytelling festival, a festival of online storytelling, and that could be films, it could be alternate reality or VR projects, and that the students would then present that challenge to us. And then as part of the assignment, the idea would be that because you've together looked at all these different films online or different projects that you might have shared together, and often students are sharing them on our kind of closed Facebook group, and it gets very active around the time of assignment happening. That final assignment is then looking at oh, I've lost myself. Okay, I'm back again. That final assignment is then looking at you writing your own science story. And that could be quite challenging for some people if storytelling is not your background, but the expertise on the program helps you to shape that portfolio assignment. And so people wrote about everything from Brexit and the challenge around Brexit and the impact that might have on science and science funding, and how that made people feel quite nervous about the challenge of Brexit. Paul, what did you write about for that assignment?
A story about artificial intelligence and virtual reality. So it was a bit of a cross mix kind of sci-fi mystery, and that was what, you know what, it was one of the hardest challenges in the assessments, only because I just wanted to make it really nice, so I kind of wanted to refine it and make it better and better. So I think I took quite a long time writing that short story. So it was cool. So think Ready Player One crossed with Terminator. So it was good.
Fantastic, thank you. And that starts building up a portfolio to enable you to have this creative portfolio that you can kind of put out there. So someone like Paul, which is quite exciting, is you got blogging and you've now got a blog presence, which is great. And we want to encourage that. People kind of do it gradually. So not everyone is online yet. But the idea of using storytelling in that particular module is that we could reflect on the ethics of science and technology, as well as thinking about how science is positioned as part of culture. And part of the course, what we really encourage is, yes, we're interested in theory, but it's really important to do the practice. So those students that do well practice their writing on a daily or weekly basis. So that's to give you an example from kind of one module. But the idea is we have these webinars on a Thursday where we're chatting a little bit like this. You would have had a conversation primer, which would be the podcast or the video. And then you'll have this group challenge and then the formal assignment. And that happens over 6 weeks for the first module and then 6 weeks for the next one. So they're quite short modules, and that happens over a period of 13 weeks. And then you'll have your assignments for both modules at the end. And it seems to be, and we're quite flexible on this, that having that longer period of time to get in both assignments allows that the two modules sort of work together and complement one another. So I think there was a bit of crossover between the citizen science and public involvement and the science and storytelling. So yeah, so that's just an example of how that might work in practice. But what's key is to think about how we're trying to get you to be independent learners. So using kind of Paul as a bit of an example, I imagine that he could count some of his independent learning hours. So we're expecting that you'd spend about 109 hours over those 6 to 7 weeks of your module that you're working alone or collaboratively with other students on both the formative challenge and your assignment. But you could count, for example, the conference that Paul went to where he's sharing his knowledge with other people. If he reflects on that through a blog, that's a way to get your independent hours and your learning up. If you reflect on that and you make it part of your assignment, that's another way to build those independent hours up. So sometimes people see a challenge with, how do I get my independent learning hours up to kind of work alongside my work? But there's an example of how you can do it. So in the first module, if you're joining us this year, it's on creative practice and context. And that is where we look at your kind of study habits, your working environment, and your creative practice to see how they could work together. So all of those challenges where people feel, oh gosh, I'm too busy, we can work with you to see how that could work for you on the course, and we'll kind of set you up to think about the tools that you're using. Andy's just writing up an A to Z of creative tools in digital media that he publishes every year, so that guidance will help you as well. We have a number of mentors. We work with industry partners. We talked about the Science Festival. I work on Sheffield International Documentary Festival. We bring in a number of people that can support and help you on those particular goals. So for the science and storytelling module, we had Dr. Gary Kerr, who's a freelance science communicator. He's about to finish his second PhD, which is quite impressive, on festival management. And he's worked with performers. He trains up a lot of people. He works in storytelling. He was a kind of mentor for people like Paul and other students in helping them to think about their science story. So that's probably enough from me. I'm going to hand over to Ben now, who's going to talk a bit about the application process and access to fees and those kinds of and support that students might get. So I'm going to hand over to you, Ben, and over to you.
That's great, thanks very much. So now you've had a bit of information about the general academic side of it. I'm just going to give you a little bit more about the university as a whole. The good part of the course that we always try and push out is the fact that even though you are a distance learning student, we still want you to make sure that you're involved with the university as much as you can be. As the student mentioned, sometimes they live around the corner and can access the facilities on campus. Sometimes they're working in France, Italy, Canada, anywhere across the world. So it all depends on the type of student you are and how accessible you are for the university itself. The course has its own Facebook group, it has its own individual chat channels, you've got support from your students, but they also have student progression assistants who are there to ensure that you get the support you need. If you have any questions, they've got the links through to the academics, so if you're struggling with any section of the course, or you're feeling a little isolated, which can be an issue with distance learning, it's something that the course works really hard to combat. In terms of the university itself, I'm just going to bring up a couple of pages that you'll be using, both in terms of the start of your journey towards, say, application and finance information, and then the support that you're able to access once you are a student with us. Just bring these up now. So, all the information on the course is available. Just if you say the future media elements, everything that was mentioned here today, you will be able to access online. So I'll just bring up this section and I'll take you through the individual elements outside of the course that you've been wanting to access. So all the information is really easy to find and is quite detailed in terms of everything that's available inside the course. So as mentioned, all the module information is here, but the important things are things like the fees and funding information. So as it's a part-time course, it is charged per module. Price is £630 per 15 credit module, and each year you do 4 15 credit modules spread over the different trimesters. In terms of the entry requirement, again, we do look for a 2-2, but if you've had any prior experience, again, the easiest thing to do is get in touch with the academics. You can provide a CV, or we can have a look at your LinkedIn profile, and you need your 300-word statement of motivation outlining why you want to apply for the course and the skills that you'll bring inside. Again, if you have any questions during the application process itself, have a chat to the academics, have a chat to any of the support departments that say we're here to give you as much support as you need. In terms of fees, funding, and the important element of funding, the university has a number of different support elements in place. So the big one is the postgraduate loan system. This has been in place since 2016. So we're in the 3rd year of it running, and it's available predominantly for home and EU students under the age of 60. And we're able to submit around £10,609 for 2018 entry towards the cost of your course. And this can be spread for part-time courses under 4 years. And as this is available as a full-time course and is spread over 3 years, you should still be eligible for the funding, but it does go on individual applications. All the information is available on the website. You've also got a really good FAQ in the independent sites like Find a Masters or Prospects. Also, the government website has some really good information on the application process there as well, and the information you'll need to provide dependent on your age. In terms of the other support during the application process, again, it all depends on your country of origin and where you're currently located as well. As mentioned, you can apply using a CV. All students will be interviewed. The interview process is quite similar to what's happening at the moment. It's quite an informal setting. It's just making sure that, one, you're doing the right course for you, the university is right for you, but you're also right for the university. So it's quite a nice way of ensuring that you get to know your academics and you're also comfortable with the elements that you're going to be learning in the future. For those of you applying directly to the university, if you are home and EU students, you'll need to provide us with an academic reference and also the transcript of your previous application or previous degree, sorry. For those of you outside the EU, you also need to have a look at the IELTS tests. So we've got some good information on the website, but ideally we look for a score of 6.5 or over. You also need a copy of your passport and if you're requiring a student visa. Again, lots of support available on the website here, all available through the click-throughs. In terms of when you actually start the course with us, some of the elements that you might be looking to gain access to are the various support networks that we put in place. So I'll just bring those up for you now. Apologies, want to get the hyperlink right. So all of our support networks are under the generalized Ask Us network. So no matter what you want to find out, anything you need can be here. We've got dedicated teams around careers and finance and employability, accommodation team as well for those of you looking to stay at the university. Again, distance learning course, so you might not need that as much. But the important things are things like our disability, wellness and counselling. So again, as a distance learning student, if you're feeling slightly isolated at any point, please use these services. They're extremely important and do help you feel part of the university as a whole. The good thing with things like our careers is they're available after you graduate as well. So you can use them anytime when you're with us looking for a job in the future. Anytime you're looking to improve your employability after you've left, come back to us. We're more than happy to support you any way that we can. So say these are the main areas that we learn in. We do ask all applicants as well, if you do have any disability or require any learning support, please let us know during the application, just so we can ensure that everything that we have in place and we're able to offer you is there for when you start your course. And if you have any other questions, please get in touch. We're happy to talk through any of the elements as well. So I'll say pass back over now. So if you do have any questions, just get in touch. Happy to help.
Thank you, Ben. So we've got about 10 minutes left, and in that 10 minutes, I was just going to clarify a couple of things. So one of the things that we get asked a lot is, okay, I do this course, where can it take me? What can I be doing out there in the world? And so thinking about jobs, whether you're a freelancer or you have aspirations to be a freelance science communicator, you're thinking about changing direction. Many years ago, I freelanced for about 20 years and then had a fellowship from the Wellcome Trust in London. And one of the exciting things about meeting someone like Andy at Salford was, he was like, we're setting up this course. We want to use the skills of people like you to then apply that and share that with others. So this course has really been set up with thinking about the future in mind. And one of those things that we do quite a lot is to horizon scan, to see what are some of those jobs that are coming up in the future. And for me personally, I'm a trustee on several organisations that care about the environment and do that by thinking about art and science. And I often support organisations around the world to think about what those future jobs might be. So we're the kind of people who are shaping some of those jobs of the future. So there's a new job title now that's called Science Producer, and that's come out of some of the work that we've done in the sector. And that is having somebody who has an understanding of science, is willing to engage with science and scientists in producing events and content, whether that's online or face-to-face. So we're at the cutting edge of kind of producing that next generation of jobs. But this online and digital area where people are able to host webinars like this, for example, that's a skill. There's a skills gap in science communication. So we've set up this course to help bridge that skills gap. So if you were to look online today and have a look at people like Royal Society of Science, you'd see that they're advertising for a digital social media person to get some of their content out online and around the world. If you were someone that took our course, you'd be able to develop those skills through just being involved in the webinars and reflecting on how you are able to do that. You'd be creating content and videos and campaigns. Some of our assignments are around writing grants. So the citizen science public involvement is that you write a grant. I think, Paul, you're about to maybe bring the grant application that you wrote into the real world. So we're really equipping you with real world skills that you can apply in the future. So this course will help bridge that gap for the traditional science communication jobs that are in museums and galleries, science museums and galleries. And then also thinking about this mobile science communicator who's out there. Andy, I don't know if you want to say a few words about that. So you worked on this scheme called digital reporting at the Olympics, and that's something that we've kind of brought into the realm of this course.
Things that Erinma mentioned earlier was my work with the Olympic Games. Here is the Youth Olympic Games taking place in Buenos Aires in Argentina, which I'll be the first week or so. and we'll most likely bring some content back or broadcast some content back during the first trimester for this year. One of the roles I've had there is being a mentor for the Young Reporters program, where we take young people from around the world and skill them up on being a mobile reporter. We've taken that model into a format in Manchester, which we implemented for the first time in 2016 as part of the European Science Open Forum program, which was a big kind of festival conference program in a whole year, really. But we took, again, some of the young people from Salford to train them up to be reporters, working with people in the university like our senior press officer, Gary Holliman, who gave them advice and connected them with various other journalists to school them in becoming a reporter. And within one of our modules, we have this kind of ethos. Last year, Paul and others were involved in documenting and reporting on the Manchester Science Festival, and we're very keen to kind of convey through the module on journalism how it's changing as a practice. The fact that many journalists today aren't just writers, they aren't just presenters, they have to do all these things, produce their own work and edit it down for social media. All these skills are kind of encapsulated in this term backpack journalism, so that you can go out there, create content, put it out across different platforms as quickly as possible and at a very high level. So one of the skills we try to develop is that. And that's one of the things we find is really useful, not just for being a journalist or being a science journalist, but actually just at work. Being able to do that is remarkable. To give one quick example, I have one production that we were involved with last year it began, but we've been working with it for I guess, 2 years really now. And it's a project called Science in the House, between an artist at Salford University, a scientist at Man University. And you can see it here within our Twitter feed. This is the science communication space at Salford. And just in the top end tweet, you can see a little of Science in the House, which performed this week at the Blue Dot Festival Bank. So it's a live VJ, the scientist and the artist are performing together to create this remarkable piece of work informed by particle physics. And this collaboration is something that comes as this desire to kind of actively innovate across both art and science and take it into unusual settings like a music festival. So these sorts of projects are kind of part of the ethos of the program, so that you can come to us with ideas and we can help you develop. And even if they're completely, we'll see if we can have a good go. Had one installation this year we're trying to work on, which is a underwater virtual reality experience, which we haven't figured out at all yet, but are quite keen to see how far we can take it. So all those things together, it's hopefully for idea development and for collaboration, where if you don't have the skills to realize something, we can pretty much guarantee we'll find someone around us that can do that.
Thank you, Andy. So yes, we've got a couple of minutes left, and in that couple of minutes, I wanted to just tell you about we're expecting this 300 words statement of motivation to tell us why you want to apply to this course and what skills and expertise or contributions you might bring. We're always excited when we see people coming from a range of different backgrounds, and every year we try and put together a cohort of students that we feel will help continue to pioneer the future of science communication and future media. So if you're unsure about your skill set, have a chat with us before you put in your application. Get in touch, scicomm@salford.ac.uk. That's scicomm@salford.ac.uk, and it's Scicomm with a double M. And we'll get back in touch with you. We'll have a conversation about where you are now and where you want to go. So that onward journey through the course and how it will support you. And just to say that there are people who've been involved in this course, and they're building their networks where they are. So Paul has been collaborating with another student to think about a hackathon that would happen out in Switzerland, I believe. And that was used as for a module in the first year, and now that's kind of happening in reality. So that's quite exciting that people are using the course to do their assignments but deliver their own creative portfolio and then extend those networks more widely. And so we hope that there's a clever way, I think, in which we can develop your talent in science communication and future media and put you out there on that world stage as you kind of build your global network. If you've got any more questions for myself or for Andy Miah, or for Chloe, or for Paul, I'm sure. Most of us are on Twitter, but I would say that a few of us, I think Chloe, you're off on holiday soon, but do drop us a line on the Scicomm at salford.ac.uk, and we'll pick up your questions from there. I'm happy to be contacted on our Twitter. So have a look at our website and you'll see our Twitter address, and you can drop me a message on there, and we can just follow up with you to see how this course may work for you. And we'd be really excited to welcome you to the course next year. Without further ado, I'll take the time to thank everyone from participating, to thank people outside who have sent in their questions to shape this course. I think we've pretty much covered everything. One thing I would say is that at Salford, we have these industrial collaboration zones, which is our way to reach out, to work with society and industry, and we very much bring that into this course. That's our ethos and way of working. But we're also keen that we bring your networks and your partnerships into this course to build it. Paul, this year, maybe to give the final word to you, what are you doing at Manchester Science Festival, just to give us a sense of how you've brought your networks from this course into this course, if you like?
Cool, nice plug. So this year's Science Festival, we're holding a story hackathon with another one of our students, and we're organising it. We've got support from Google, Microsoft. I'm trying to get the Heath Storyteller, that's his official job title at Microsoft, over from San Francisco to do a talk. Google are going to do a bit of presentation on how to tell a story on social media, and the idea is just to make a short 1 or 2 minute film on science or technology or engineering. So, or bring them all together, even better. So that'll be really cool. So it's a really interesting way to do that. And I run a TV channel network across all our labs, and some around the world as well, and we'll host those on there after, so you'll get some exposure after that as well, because we want to give back a bit.
Fantastic. And so if you're a distance learner and you pick the distance learning only option, you'll still be able to see what happens at the Science Festival, because we'll be streaming out some of the activities for you to engage with them. We'll engage you in a group challenge that you'll be able to get involved in, which is a kind of writing challenge and blogging online. And tweeting, so you'll get involved in that. If you pick the blended learning option, that means that you're picking the residential, and that residential happens in the first trimester of either the beginning of year of each of your years. The final year, you'll have a kind of final year project. So have a look at the two different options. The blended learning option means that you'll come face to face with us at Media City and participate in what's happening at the Science Festival, and open your eyes to the horizon of citizens at science and future media and the future of storytelling and technology, and the stuff around the microbiome that Chloe's going to be doing. You'll get an insight into the ways in which science communication is being used currently to engage different audiences. And you can do that through the blended learning option face-to-face, or the distance learning option we'll tap you into it with live web streams. And that helps you to get some of the content for the rest of the course. So yeah, just to wrap up and to say kind of thank you to everyone for participating. Thanks for your questions. Thank you for listening. If you've got anything further, any questions or queries about the course, get in touch with me, Erinma, on Scicomm, I can't even spell now, SCICOMM at salford.ac.uk. We're really excited to see what you might bring to the course, what we might learn from you, but also what you're going to learn from us. Hopefully we'll see you in September. Thanks for listening.